When you're watching Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, this movie, I had a lot of expectations for this movie, I'll be honest. Coming off of the first one, I was just kind of like, I was in such a go state of mind, you know what I mean? I was like, okay, Captain America Civil War brought all of the Avengers together, you know what I mean? And it felt like they were building up Thanos a lot, and I hadn't seen him, so I was kind of like, okay, this is going to be a movie that's going to have some elements that we're going to learn about. There were hints or guesses that that Adam Warlock was going to be in the movie. And there was a lot of speculation about the movie, about there being another Infinity Stone added to the collection. So I was like, everybody's saying that Adam Warlock had the Soul Stone, or maybe it was the Mind Stone. I forget, but because Vision had it and nobody had seen the Soul Stone, it was kind of like anticipated or highly guessed that the Soul Stone was going to appear in this movie, and then more Thanos and other things, but none of that ended up happening. And what I got instead was a very... Dude, this movie is such a... It's such a personal... It's a big softie. It's a big softie of a movie. Oh my goodness, this movie hits you in all of the feels and just the right way. I think they build off of the characters beautifully after the first one. This movie takes place about 6 months after the first one, so it's technically still 2014. And at the time, I was kind of like, oh, that's weird. That's a little bit odd. You know what I mean? I was like, why don't they just make it like real time? And so now I understand why. Now looking at it, I'm just kind of like, yeah, it's such a... It makes more and more sense for it to be like that than kind of for it to have so much time in between. Mainly for, I guess, character purposes, like Baby Groot, who's adorable, by the way. But Baby Groot can't be a baby if like 3 years go by or whatever, or maybe it can, but more time would have to pass by. I don't know. My point being is that like Baby Groot needs to be like cute in the story, a part of it and stuff. And so 6 months go by and it's still in there. I also think that the character Ego, played by Kurt Russell, all of it kind of like comes together in like a short amount of time, because what they did on Xandar spreads, and you know, it only a few weeks or a couple of months go by and they become like a big deal. So that's kind of like the main reason why I think, oh, this is such a great idea. This is why it should be in like a short amount of time. It shouldn't be like tomorrow, or like, I mean, it shouldn't be like 3 years later. It should be still in 2014. It should still be in that time. And I agree with that choice. I think James Gunn does a great job of balancing all the characters and giving them a chance to really shine, giving them just really personal motivations for everything and for who they are and what they do. It just, man, it's such a beautiful, beautiful story, you know, and rewatching it, it just like reminds me how anybody can become a part of a family or make friends. It just feels like such a cool part. But anyways, the movie starts off with Kurt Russell, who plays Ego, and Meredith Quill, who plays Peter Quill's mom. It starts off with their story, how they like fall in love or how they become a couple and whatnot. And it kind of just becomes this, what's it called? It starts off as like a romance thing, and then we kind of get like a little tease as to what's to come, what Ego is actually planning for not just Earth, but the entire galaxy as well. So then we get the opening credits scene with Baby Groot dancing to Mr. Blue Sky, and dude, that I could watch that honestly over and over and over again, never get bored. I love moments like that where it's like or like something big and action heavy is happening behind them, and then the character that we're focusing on is doing something pretty like silly or mundane or whatever. Like I thought that was so cute. And Baby Groot is just adorable. Great song choice. I heard that James Gunn sometimes has like these scenes ideas like kind of like already attached to the story or like to scenes. So it's not really like whatchamacallit. It isn't like he has the scene and then he comes up with like, okay, let's add this song to it. It's like he has the song and then he attaches the scene to it. And I think this is an example of that. Or I don't know how accurate that is, but like I feel like he had the idea to like, I want Mr. Blue Sky to be the opening credit song or whatever. I want that to be like when the title shows up, that's what I want to happen. And so in that he had like, okay, Groot's going to be dancing and then all the other Guardians are going to be fighting this alien monster and whatnot. And so essentially the Guardians are fighting this demon monster, like octopus thing, kind of. And Groot's dancing, he's having fun, he's doing his own thing. It's really hilarious. It's a hilarious bit. But anyways, they're fighting this monster so that way they get a reward out of it. They're Guardians of the Galaxy. It doesn't have to really be explained. But essentially, they're working for a group known as the Sovereign. And the Sovereign have these things called Anulax batteries. And because the Sovereign want to protect those batteries, they have like interdimensional beasts that will come onto their world, and then the Guardians of the Galaxy will kill or destroy the beasts or the monster that comes onto their world, and they'll do it for a price. Now, normally I thought they were going to get money, but they have something else of value. Oh my gosh, why am I blanking on her name? Nebula. They have Nebula, and Gamora is kind of interested in like, all right, let's get Nebula, and we're gonna take her to the Nova Corps, and she's gonna be arrested for her crimes that she committed on Xandar, trying to kill everybody. So that's kind of like the inspiration. And in between, we see a lot of things. We see Star-Lord, we see Chris Pratt flirting with the Sovereign Princess. We see Rocket kind of like treating just being an a-hole. We just see him just being like just being Rocket. He steals the Anulax batteries effortlessly. And then the Sovereign are like, oh yeah, now we have to kill them. They took our stuff. And the Sovereign start going after Rocket and other Guardians. And because they start going after them, their ship gets heavily damaged and they're about to die. Like that whole chase sequence is something straight out of Star Wars, like them going all around and dying and like flying around and shooting ships down and like going through an asteroid field. Like that's so Star Wars. That's so like inspirational, or like there's obviously an inspiration in that. I mean, it's just a cool little scene, you know what I mean? A little cool space chase. I thought that was a really fun moment. I want more of that, but obviously they have to. I think the story has to progress a little further. And it does happen later on in this movie, but not out in space per se. But anyways, point being is that they're getting chased by the Sovereign. They're shooting at them. They're trying to dodge it, to avoid it. And Drax does something really funny. He attaches a cable to himself and he goes out there and he starts fighting them himself by shooting a gun or whatever. And the ship is crash landing in another planet, and we just see. I mean, it's so crazy, but it's also like so fun when you know that the character's gonna be okay. Like Drax is holding on. I mean, he's being tied to the ship by a cable, and the cable's about to break off, but then we see Gamora grab the cable and hold on to the ship, and we see them crash landing on the planet, and they're crashing into trees, and Drax is hitting the trees as they're crashing, and Gamora's holding on for dear life, and she's strong enough to like hold on to the ship and hold on to Drax while he's still getting destroyed by trees and stuff. It's really, really funny. And so they crash land and they get saved. They were saved before they crash landed. They were saved by oh my gosh, Kurt Russell. Kurt Russell, who plays Ego. And that's when Ego reveals to Star-Lord, to Peter Quill, that he's his father. And he was like, I heard stories about Star-Lord, and I heard about what you did on Xandar and how you held an Infinity Stone in your hand. I know because that kind of strength could only be from my own son, you know? And so he offers them the opportunity to go to his planet and learn more about his heritage and who he is. And that was a really big mystery, is like, he's half human, he's also half, well, the story will explain, but we'll get to that. And all of a sudden, his dad is in his life. He shows up, and Peter's obviously skeptical. And then Gamora gives him comfort. They talk. They go for a walk. They talk about who Ego is, who he could be. They talk about Peter Quill's past and how he wished that he was around. He wished that he was like all of the other kids who had a dad and played catch. And he used to tell everybody that his dad was David Hasselhoff, and he was like shooting a movie or doing his TV show and he couldn't be around. He used to carry his picture in his pocket, and that used to be like his, you know, that was his thought process. And it just goes to show that it's like, it was so damaging to him as a kid to not have his dad around, not to have Ego in his life. And so, all things considered, Gamora, Peter, and Drax, they basically all decide to go to Ego's planet. And Rocket's going to fix the ship because it's all damaged. And Groot's going to stay with him because Groot and Rocket are inseparable. And Nebula's going to be their prisoner. So that's the idea. Then we get a look at Yondu, what he's been up to, what's going on with him. And essentially, Yondu is, whatchamacallit? Well, we see Yondu at like a strip club or like at some sort of like spot where he gets to hook up with women or whatnot. And we see how he's treated by the other, Ravagers. By the other Ravagers. And Sylvester Stallone makes an appearance in the movie. He plays Takar. And we kind of get an idea of like what Yondu's life is like, or what being a Ravager is all about, and how he got to quote unquote be exiled or be pushed away. He's not really a part of like the Ravager lifestyle, I guess. And that's all because he stole Peter Quill. He stole Star-Lord, and he's not supposed to do that. It's not part of the Ravager code. And there's a really, I like that moment where it's personal for Yondu, and he gets to like confront Stakar. He gets to talk to them. I like the moment where he's like, where Stakar and all the other Ravagers are leaving, and he's like, okay, you guys can go to hell then. And he starts following them. I don't care what you guys think about me. And then Sylvester Stallone's like, oh yeah, then why are you following us? He's like, because you're going to hear what I have to say. You know what I mean? Like that kind of confrontation. It's like, he doesn't care what they think about him, but he still has a lot to get off his chest. And he wants to tell it to their faces right then and there. And I felt like that was a pretty good comeback, all things considered. So then, Yondu gets it all off his chest, and then we kind of learned that, like, Yondu's not a perfect man. He's not particularly a good man, you know. He stole Peter, he kept him, he didn't deliver him to Ego. He's like the bad guy, you know what I'm saying? And it's just when you have somebody like that, who's flawed and all messed up, it's like, wow, that sucks. And we get to see like how personal it is with him, how sad and how good it is to see him dealing with something, So anyways, after their little fight or whatever, we see the Sovereign come upon Yondu, and they talk up to him about getting Star-Lord back, about facing the Guardians of the Galaxy, and they offer him like 1,000,000 units to get the Guardians of the Galaxy and deliver them to the Sovereign, because then the Sovereign would kill them and they would get their vengeance or lock them up or whatever, and that's the end of it. All because Rocket stole Anulax batteries. I thought that was... I mean, again, the Sovereign are only part of the story for the Anulax batteries. But anyways, couple of things I missed. Peter, Star-Lord, and Rocket Raccoon are going back and forth about who's the best pilot or who should steer the ship. I thought that was a really funny bit. We meet Mantis, who works for Ego, or is kind of like his associate. She helps him go to sleep and whatnot. I thought that was cute. Her Palm Clementif, she does a great job as Mantis. Really good character for her. She's so awkward and so innocent and so silly, but doesn't know what she's doing. I thought that was the best. So anyways, we see Mantis have like a moment with Drax where she's like, "Can I touch your puppy? Can I pet your puppy? He is so cute." And then she like pets Rocket, and then he like tries to bite her hand, and she's like, "Whoa!" And then Drax starts laughing. Oh man, Drax is hilarious in this movie. He's such a great comedic relief. He's so good at it. So anyways, cut back. We're seeing all of the Guardians. We're seeing Gamora, Peter, and Drax. We're seeing them all come together and going to Ego's planet, and they're talking to Mantis. And Mantis is basically talking about how she's an empath. Her abilities are connected to people's feelings, so she's able to help Ego go to sleep. She can feel other people's emotions by touching them, so she'll be able to understand people better that way, and she'll be able to make people feel other things, like she'll be able to make someone feel... somebody who is like stubborn and kind of pushing back against them. She can make them compliant. She can make somebody who is, sad and really depressed and outgoing. Someone who's really sad and like out of control with their emotions. She can make them like calm down. You know what I'm saying? And there's this great bit where she feels Star-Lord's hand and she's like, "Can I try?" And he's like, "Sure, go ahead." She's like, "You feel love." And he's like, "Yeah, I guess I genuinely feel a deep love for everybody on an equal level." And she's like, "No, romantic love, sexual love for her." And she points at Gamora. And then Drax starts laughing at Quill. He's like, oh my gosh. That is such a funny bit. That's such a hilarious moment where it's like Peter gets outed, you know what I'm saying? Like, and then Drax laughs in his face, and it's just kind of like, oh my gosh, it's so awkward. And Gamora's like standing right there, and it's just so awkward but funny and like cute at the same time. I don't know, dude. It just, I really like that moment. I thought that was like, ooh, you know what I mean? Don't want to be outed by Mantis. But anyways, she then touches Drax, and then she starts laughing, and they both start laughing at Peter together. And then she tries to feel Gamora's feelings, and she's like, nope, not gonna happen. They arrive on Ego's planet, And then Ego basically tells them all about how he met Peter's mom, how they fell in love, how he came up with a purpose for himself, what life was like for him, how he designed his body, how he became Ego, you know what I mean? How him and Peter are connected. He calls himself a celestial, which is not important to this film right now, but it is important later on down the line. And I don't know, dude, this is it's such a big deal, but it's also like not a big deal. So anyways, they're on Ego's planet and they're kind of having a back and forth, you know. Ego is like, this is my planet, this is my world, this is who I am, you know. It's everything. And he's like, I loved your mother, Peter, but I have to come back to the planet to like sustain the light, you know, that I am. And then Peter's like, if you loved my mom so much, why did you leave her? Why are you leaving her? You know what I mean? Why did you leave me and my mom, you know? You don't get it. And so they kind of have like a walk-away moment. Meanwhile, Yondu and the other Ravagers are going after Rocket and Groot and Nebula. And they get found. And we get some of the best... That is like the best part about Rocket is he's so technologically gifted. He's capable of like handling himself. Like we see just what Rocket is able to do all by himself. He's able to protect the ship. He's able to protect Groot. He's able to fight. He's able to just basically do everything. He's so cool. But then, you know, Yondu comes in with his whistle arrow and he stops him in his tracks. And he's just kind of like, damn it, you know, this sucks. And I love that scene. It's so good. So then, we see the Ravagers like looking at one another or talking about like what they're gonna do, and Yondu's basically like, I'm not gonna turn it. He's like, we're not gonna turn in the Guardians of the Galaxy. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna just hand you over to the Sovereign. You know what I mean? He's like, we're gonna take your Anulax batteries and we're gonna sell those. And there's a really funny moment with Taserface, that's the name of the character. He's like, that the high priestess of like Sovereign, she offered us $1 million. A quarter of that is only like a third. I thought that was a really funny moment. And then Yondu explains his reasoning. He's like, we're not that stupid to turn over the Guardians of the Galaxy, okay? The whole dang Nova Corps would be on our asses, and we don't need that right now. And so Kraglin, played by Sean Gunn, goes like, stop protecting Peter Quill. You know what I mean? Like, you can't keep doing this, like, acting like he's better than the rest of us and that you don't care about what we want as like a crew. You know what I'm saying? And then Taserface is like, all right, suppose we have a change in leadership. And then they all point their guns at Yondu. And everybody's kind of like, all right, here we go, baby. And then Nebula comes out and she shoots Yondu in the head. And I thought that meant Yondu was dead. She just shot the artificial part of his brain where he's able to like control his arrow or whatever. So he's not dead. And Nebula is just kind of like, what's up, everybody? She's in charge now. She shoots Yondu. Then she shoots Rocket. She manipulated Groot to free her. And that's how she's out there. And now Rocket, Groot, and Yondu are prisoners of the Ravagers. And then we see Peter back on Ego's planet, and they start bonding again. They start like finally coming together and like being a father-son duo. Ego teaches Peter how to like manipulate the light of the planet, how he's able to have like these superpowers. you know? He like shapes a little ball and they start playing catch. It's a really cute moment. And then we cut back to Rocket and everybody being prisoners and how the Ravagers have created a mutiny, killing off people who don't agree with them or like don't want there to be like a mutiny. They want Yondu to still be captain. And we see this really funny moment with Rocket and Taserface where he's just basically like, I'm Taserface. And everybody's like, yeah. And Rocket's laughing in his face. He's like, yeah, the tasers come out of your face? And he's like, it's metaphorical. And everybody's cheering. And he's like, that's so stupid. And then he starts saying like, what was your other option? Scrotum hat? And then he turns all the Ravagers against him and they start laughing at him. That's such a great scene, such a great moment. And then they basically just throw Rocket and Yondu into prison. And then they torture poor little baby Groot. They start pouring alcohol on him. They kick him in the stomach. They put him in like one of the Ravagers uniforms. It's just, you know what I mean? It sucks. And then eventually they just like get rid of Groot, or they just like let him wander or do whatever he wants alone. So then we see Peter talking about having a dad. You know what I mean? He dances with Gamora. That was a really sweet scene. He talks about how there's some unspoken thing between the two of them. It's just such a beautiful moment. It's such like a romantic little thing between them. And there's something like really sweet between them. There's just all kinds of nice little moments like that. And I feel like, you know, it's that kind of like bond or like kind of like romance that works. Like that works for this movie. Like I'm actually interested and invested in these characters, like maybe having a little relationship or something, you know what I mean? But it's not like the main focus. So anyways, before that, Drax and Mantis were having a cute little moment with each other. Drax is telling Mantis how ugly she is, and they start talking about his family. And there's the beautiful moment where she touches Drax as he's thinking about his daughter and his wife and his past, and she starts crying. She's like, she's really sad. She starts bawling her eyes out, tears, and we just see Drax just holding it all in, or like that's how he feels on the inside, but now he doesn't physically show it all the time, you know? He's always so sad and he's weeping on the inside, but on the outside he's calm as can be, you know? He's still Drax, you know? And I thought that was such a powerful moment. And Mantis, feeling Drax's emotions, is able to finally... She's about to open up to him, and then Gamora comes in and is like, hey, can you show us where we're going to be staying and whatnot? And she knows she's hiding something. She's hiding something from all of them. There's something not right about this planet. And so, after Peter and Gamora, they basically like... They have the little moment. We take a look at Nebula, who's like, I have something I have to do first. And she starts, she leaves the ship and she takes like an extra vessel or another ship, and she starts going after the Guardians on Ego's planet. And there's a funny moment where she's like, I'm going to seek vengeance upon my father Thanos for turning me into this monster, into this robot cyborg looking thing. And once I kill him and bathe in his blood, the rest of the world shall know peace. And then he's just like, okay, sure. I just, you know, I meant like the bounty, you know what I mean? Like what you were going to do with your money. I thought you were going to get like a, you know, a pretty necklace or whatever. You know what I mean? So anyways... the Ravagers are staging a mutiny, and Nebula is going after Gamora on Ego's planet. And there's this moment where Gamora like kind of walks off on her own after talking to Peter. Essentially, they have like a little back and forth or a little argument about like, hey, you wanted me to come here, Gamora. And Gamora's like, yeah, but something's going on and you're not looking at it objectively anymore. Like, something's going on, something's off about this. And Peter's like, don't take this away from me. This is my dad we're talking about. He's family. He's my real family. And then she's kind of like, I thought you already had a family. Us. You know what I mean? Well, she doesn't say that, but she's like, it basically implied. So now Gamora's kind of like on Ego's planet, like on her own, all alone, trying to figure out like, okay, what do I do? And that's when Nebula crashes on the planet and starts attacking her, shooting guns at her, crashing the ship into a cave, chasing after her, trying to kill her. And then Gamora fights back and they have a little fight. And there's just this moment of like sisterly bond between the two of them. It's like Nebula's trying to kill Gamora because Gamora was hurting Nebula. They had to fight over and over and over again. And Thanos would take Nebula apart. And it was just kind of like how broken Nebula was. It was like, you know, you wanted to win and I wanted a sister. That was the big moment. That was the big argument. It's just that like she didn't want to fight her any more than I guess Gamora wanted to fight Nebula. It's just that Gamora always won and Nebula kept losing. And it's like, why are you doing this to me? You know what I mean? It felt like she was just unempathetic towards Nebula. And Nebula's like, I can't forgive that. I'm going to kill her and best her in combat. And it just doesn't end up turning out that way. And it's not really about Gamora dying. It's more so like, I beat you, you know? It's more about Thanos dying. It's more about killing him than anything else. And they have that moment, and it's just like one of those broken pieces of like, it's like one of those family arguments where it's like, now so much has been bubbling on the inside that it finally comes out, and it's like, it's all about just fighting each other, and it comes out like this, you know? So now they're both there on the planet, and they're about to figure out what Ego's really planning there. Meanwhile, Groot is working with Rocket and Yondu to break them out, and he keeps on getting the wrong thing. He's supposed to get this prototype fin for Yondu's head, and he starts going around and he gets like a toe, he gets like a blanket, he gets underwear, he gets like an eyeball, all these little great moments. And we see Rocket and Yondu basically bonding with each other or talking to one another. They talk about, why did you steal Quill? And Yondu gives like the basic answers, like he was skinny, he could get into places nobody else could, he was good for thieving. And then he's like, where is Quill? He's like, he went with his old man. He's like, Ego? He's like, boy. You know, that guy was a jackass. And essentially, they're just kind of like talking back and forth. And we see Rocket just continue to be just more of a complete, just a jerk. He just starts really pissing people off, like throughout the whole movie. I don't know, dude. He just has so many great comebacks, and he's just like so mean, and he pushes so many people away. And we see this moment where eventually they're both kind of just like staring at each other, and they're like, whatever. Anyways, they break free with the help from Kraglin. Yondu gets his prototype fin, and Kraglin now feels bad for using his voice to uplift Taserface and the other Ravagers, because they killed all of his friends, all of the people who sided with Yondu, and now he feels bad about creating a mutiny. And so he breaks them free, and then Yondu basically kills all of the Ravagers, along with Rocket. and they bust out of there, and they're going to Ego's planet to basically save Peter. But Rocket hits the. So they're like these space jumps, and it kind of helps them teleport themselves across the whole galaxy. And he presses it to go to Ego's planet the fastest way, and they start doing multiple jumps throughout the galaxy to different places in such a short amount of time. And Yondu's like, "No, boy, what are you doing?" And they start jumping across the galaxy at lightning speed. And he's like, "It's not right for mammalian species to travel at such to travel over 50 jumps at a time. You hit us, so we jump 700. And so you just see like them tripping out. They're like, their faces are distorting. They're going like, ah! I thought that was so funny. That's such a great bit too. It's just another space travel moment where it's like, oh my gosh, they're going quickly. And then Ego and Peter have another talk again. And essentially he's telling Peter his evil plan. He's been planting like seeds of himself across multiple planets across the galaxy, and he needs somebody else with his celestial genes to be able to like spread to grow his seeds and take over those other planets. And it's just making more of himself, and that's where his name Ego comes from. It's like all about him. It's all about him. It's not about anybody else. It's just him. And so he tried procreating with other species, but none of them had the celestial genes. But Peter did. But Yondu didn't deliver him to Ego. So he was just out there in the galaxy doing who knows what. So now that he's there, he can be with Peter Quill, and they can together, rule the galaxy as father and son. And he kind of opens up Star-Lord's eyes, and he shows them the life and the world, and they're out there, you know what I'm saying? And then Ego kind of tells him that, like, man, I really loved your mom, Peter. Yeah, I knew if I went to go see her again, I would have to give up my whole mission, I would have to give up on everything, and I couldn't do that. It really broke my heart to put that tumor in her head. And that was the moment Star-Lord came out. He's like, what? Comes out of it, and then he starts shooting Ego, and he goes like, you killed my mother. And it just, now he's the evil villain of this story, you know what I mean? I mean, he was always it, but now we know why. He put the tumor in his mom's head, and it's personal. Now he has to die. And it becomes a fight, and Peter loses. And essentially he's basically a battery now. And then Nebula and Gamora are down in like the cave, and they find all of Ego's dead children, their skeletons and whatnot. And they're like, we have to get out of here. They confront Mantis, and Mantis is like, they are his children, but none of them have the celestial genes. So now Drax, Gamora, Nebula, and Mantis, it's time for them to gear up and go fight, and to face Ego. And so Peter is like getting stabbed by like this light tentacle, and now he's like basically Ego's new battery to take over the world. And Ego destroys his Walkman and cassette tape that he got from his mom, which sucks. I thought that was like, not the Walkman. He had such value in that thing. And then Yondu and Rocket finally make it to Ego's planet, and Yondu basically tells Rocket what Ego is. He's a whole planet. He's a whole celestial being, and they have to kill him. And now there's another moment between the two of them where, man, so much great dialogue in this movie. But there's a moment where he's kind of like, why are we here? Like, what are we gonna save Quill for love, for honor? And Rocky's like, I don't care about any of that stuff. I just want to prove to Peter Quill that I'm better than him. I can hold this over him forever and ever and ever. And Yondu is basically like, you little idiot. I can tell. I know who you really are. You know what I mean? You can fool everybody else, but you can't fool me. And then he's basically like, I know that you steal batteries that you don't need. I know that you act like you're something, like you're the strongest one of all, but you're actually the most scared. I know that you don't want to have any connections with anybody, because if you did, you would feel a little hurt inside. You would feel a little bit of love. It scares you a bit. And I know that the lab scientists that made you don't care about you at all. Just like how my parents sold me into slavery for the Kree army or whatever. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter. You know what I mean? I know who you are because you're me. And it's just two reflections of themselves, Yondu and Rocket, staring at each other. And it's just like they finally understand each other. They know each other very well. And that was such a powerful moment. I really love that moment. And then now they're going to face Ego, and then they crash into Ego. They like hit him again, just like you remember when Rocket crashed into the what's his name? Ronan? You know what I mean? He flew up there and he crashed into Ronan and hit him with the thing. They do that again, but they hit Ego and they save Peter Quill, Gamora, Drax, Mantis, Nebula. They all show up, and now it's the Guardians versus Ego. And they have to get into Ego's core, and they have to stop him from in there. And they have this cool little space pod with like lasers that helps them dig down into the planet. And then when Yondu killed all the Ravagers, Taserface made a final call to the Sovereign, telling them where Yondu's ship was. And the Sovereign show up, and they start attacking the Guardians of the Galaxy. They start attacking them to get their Annulax batteries back. This is all over their Annulax batteries. And they start attacking them, and it becomes like just a crazy moment. They have to kill Ego. They have to blow him. They have to kill him somehow, and they have to stop the Sovereign from killing them. And it just becomes this back and forth battle, which I think is really cool. I wish we had more time to look at that battle, that fight. So anyways, Rocket makes a bomb out of the Annulax batteries, and Peter and Rocket can't fit, but baby Groot can. And so he's kind of telling Groot, like, okay, so this is what you want to do. You want to pull these two triggers down, and then you want to push this button. But not this button, because then the battery will explode, and then we'll all die, okay? So, repeat it back to me. And then he goes, I am Groot. I am Groot. I am Groot. No, that's the wrong order. Do it again. And there's another funny bit where Rocket's like, does anybody have any tape? I want to put some tape over the death button. And then Peter's like, Gamora, do you have any tape? Drax, do you have any tape? Yes, Scotch tape would work. Then why did you ask if it's Scotch tape if you don't have any? And it was just funny how he was like asking people for tape. They like took the time to like do that during the battle. And so anyways, Groot takes the bomb and he's running to Ego's core. Rocket, Drax, Star-Lord, Yondu, they're all fighting the Sovereign and Ego. And then finally Ego starts like coming back. He's like, all right, he's taking charge over again, and he starts basically stopping everybody. He like closes the walls in on Groot so that he can't reach his heart or his core. He like traps Quill again. He traps Yondu. He traps everybody. And Yondu basically tells Peter that like, the reason I stole you from your father is like, when I found out what happened to his other kids that I delivered to him, like, I knew I wasn't going to let that happen to you either. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like a noble thing that he was doing, but at the same time, he did deliver those kids to Ego and they died, so he wasn't going to let that happen to Peter Quill. Anyways, Yondu tells him that, like, I don't control my arrow with my head. You know what I mean? I use my heart. And in that moment, you see Peter Quill stand up to Ego and his father and use his newfound powers and abilities to kick his ass. And they start flying through the sky. They start fighting like an epic superhero battle. And it was just so cool to see. They start playing The Chain by Fleetwood Mac. It all just comes together so perfectly. You shouldn't have killed my mother and squished my Walkman. And if you don't, and just that little funny part. And they start fighting, and Groot is able to put the bomb perfectly, and they have like 5 minutes to get out of there. And now the planet's about to blow up, so everybody has to get to safety. And Drax and Mantis are close to the ship. Gamora and Nebula are trying to get up to the ship. Rocket and Groot are together, and they're basically like, hey, Yondu, come on, we gotta go. And Yondu's like, nah, I gotta go save Peter. I gotta go save Quill from his father, you know? Give me this. And so Rocket only had like one arrow rig and a spacesuit or a rocket propeller, and he gives it to Yondu. He had only one of each, and he gave it to Yondu. And then the planet blows up, Ego starts disintegrating, and Peter loses his powers. But then Yondu comes in and saves him from the exploding planet, and they start flying up into the air. And there's this great moment where, well, actually, before that, there was another great moment where all the Guardians were together, and like a meteor crashes into Mantis, and then Drax is like, Mantis, watch out. But anyways, Yondu saves Peter and starts lifting up into the sky, flying outside of the planet. And he basically tells Peter, and this is also a funny line, but it's also a really endearing line. He's like, he may have been your father, boy, but he wasn't your daddy. And I thought that was so funny. But it was also like, that's really true, is that like, he's biologically his dad, but he's not his father, you know what I mean? He didn't raise him. He didn't care about him in the same way that Yondu did. And so it's kind of like one final heartfelt like, hey, I care about you, Peter. I'm your dad, and you know, I'm sorry I didn't do any of it right. You know what I mean? Let me make it up to you right here, right now, by saving you. And then he puts the arrow rig or the space suit that allows him to like survive in space. And he's wearing the jetpack and he's flying up into space so that everybody on the Guardians team can save them. And so he flies up into the air, and Quill is like, no, Yondu. Yondu's dying, holding Peter, getting him up to the spaceship in space where they'll be away from the exploding planet. And we see Yondu literally die in front of Peter, and he's holding his face, and we see him turn into ice, and we see the life leave his eyes, and we see Peter just begging that Yondu doesn't die. He's trying to take the spacesuit off, but there's like a fail-safe in it where he can't take it off, you know, so that way he doesn't like die or kill himself. And I thought that's a safety thing where it's like they don't accidentally press it so he doesn't go away. I mean, doesn't like turn off while he's out there in space. And Yondu dies, and they have a funeral for him. Rocket called all of the other Ravager friends and basically told them what Yondu did, and they hold a Ravager funeral for him. He gets treated with honor and respect, and I thought that was beautiful. And then we get like another tender moment between Peter and Groot as they listen to Father and Son and the song, and they look over Yondu's funeral, and we see the other Ravagers giving him respect. And then we see Gamora and Peter look at each other, and there's an unspoken thing between them. And then we see Rocket and Peter talk to each other about how people still cared about him, about Yondu. We're still able to show him love in his death, even though he was a jerk, he was mean, and he pushed people away, and he stole the Enulax batteries that he didn't really need or care about. And Peter is able to, like, look at him, and they just have this beautiful moment with each other in that moment. Just that, like, of compassion and love for each other. And then it ends with Rocket's face looking at Yondu's funeral, and essentially a part of him kind of like dying, or somebody, a future for himself, you know, one where he could be loved and cared for. And so after that, the movie ends, and then it's like 5 post-credit scenes. They do like multiple of them. I was like, wow, this is a lot. So anyways, I won't be able to remember all of them, but I have it right here. So Kraglin gets Yondu's arrow after his death, and he starts practicing with it, and then he hits Drax in like the shoulder, and we see Drax just like, ah! That was a funny one, and then he kind of walks away. We see Sylvester Stallone kind of like reunite with all the other Ravagers, and I thought that was cool. They were like, who were they? One of them was Michelle Yeoh. I thought that was pretty interesting. They had, oh my gosh, Ving Rhames was there too. They had like, it was just a cool little cast. And apparently that's like another version of the Guardians of the Galaxy or whatever, but I thought that was cool. We see the Sovereign like kind of making Adam Warlock. I thought that was cool. He's like in the cocoon being made by the Sovereign. Yeah, I thought that was nice. No Thanos in this movie, no Infinity Stone, which was disappointing at the time, but now it's like, I don't really care anymore. And then we get to see a teenage Groot. So no more baby Groot at the end of this movie. It's noticeably like he's older now. He's a teenager. He's playing video games. His room is a mess. It's just kind of like the funny stuff. You know what I mean? And we see him talking to Star-Lord like a dad. And Star-Lord's like, now I know how Yondu felt with me. You know? I thought that was funny. And that's obviously like a time jump difference. It's not like within... it's not like a week later, Baby Groot becomes a teenager. It's like... That's in the period between 2014 to 2018 that Groot becomes teenage Groot that we see. And that was funny. And then Stan Lee cameo. As Rocket and Yondu are like space, like jumping between different parts of the galaxy to get to Ego's planet, we see Stan Lee talking to like these alien people. And he's like basically saying like, so then I had, that was the time I was working as a Federal Express man. And I thought that was really funny. Great moment. And then the post-credit scene, we see Stan Lee kind of talking about like, hey, hold on, guys. I have so much more stories to tell. You know what I mean? It's like, you guys are my ride home. You can't just leave me. You know what I mean? And I thought that was like I thought that was a little funny scene. And then this article goes into like explaining it. It's like Stan Lee was like pretty old when he was doing all of, you know, I mean, he was an old man, and it was kind of like he felt like he still had a lot of stories to tell despite how old he was and how much of his time was kind of like going away. And the people that he was talking to were known as the Watchers. And that becomes important later on. But anyways, man, this was such a great movie. It's such a fun movie. It's so lighthearted and fun, but it's also like personal and emotional, and it has all these great moments where Gamora and Nebula had great scenes, Drax and Mantis had great scenes, Ego and Peter had great scenes, Peter and Gamora had great scenes, Yondu and Rocket had great scenes, Rocket and Groot had a good moment with Gamora and with Drax. He had like all of these people juggled together, and they all came out so beautifully. It was so cool to see. And you know, James Gunn just does an amazing job balancing all the characters and giving them a chance to shine, giving them a chance to be their own character and being interesting. And he does it in such a great way. And the Guardians wouldn't be what they are without him and his direction and pushing them to go do different things. So Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 is so good. It's so fun. It's so personal. It's so lighthearted and emotional, but also sweet and funny and exciting. It's just a all-around great movie and has so many sci-fi moments in it. Yeah, it just feels so good to watch this and just be like, man, they did it right. You know, this was a good sequel. And coming off of the first one, you know, it could have been a failure, the second one, but they did a really great job with it. And, you know, everybody on that cast was magnificent. So, great movie. Definitely rewatchable. I like rewatching this movie. It's so good. So anyways, guys, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. When you're watching it, have fun. It's a fun movie. Get some tissues ready to cry if you get emotional. You know what I'm saying? It's just that good. And yeah, enjoy it. It's a really good personal, just a movie, not even like Marvel related or comic books hero related. You know what I mean? It's not like an Avengers movie where it's like, it feels straight out of the comics. It just feels like, whether it's Marvel or superhero related or not, it's just a good sci-fi action movie, you know? So, I feel like anybody would really like this movie. So, thank you guys so much for watching, for listening. I'll talk to you guys all next time. Thank you.